We can see here in the Instagram post, Michael Daboul, who's actually helping one of his fellow competitors, Stephane Matala, make the height weight requirements. Dave Palumbo here with an RX Muscle rant. I just saw this on Instagram and I thought it was really funny, but not so funny for the people who had to do it. There's a big show in Austria this weekend run by our friends at Muscle Contest, the El Guntis, and they're holding a classic men's physique pro show. Probably the favorite going into that show would have to be Michael Daboul, who will be competing and trying to get an Olympia qualification for next year. And we can see here in the Instagram post, Michael Daboul, who's actually helping one of his fellow competitors, Stephane Matala, make the height weight requirements. Now, I know we did a video over the summer where we said that it was kind of ridiculous that at all these shows, that these classic physique guys a lot of times are missing their weight because they're really not sure what their height is. They think they're one height, which would allow them to weigh a certain amount, and actually they get heighted in at these shows and they're actually shorter than what they always are, and then they can't weigh as much as they thought, so they actually miss the weight class. And we said how ridiculous this is, and we've been talking about this for the last 2 years now, and that something needs to be done about it. Tyler Mannion made a statement over the summer where he said that we're fixing this permanently. What's going to happen is that over the next several months or whatever, as these classic physique guys compete, they're going to get heighted in, and they're going to take the 3 next heights that they height in at, and they're going to average that together, and then they're going to get a height card, and that's going to be their permanent height, which we all agreed, fantastic idea. So a lot of people who are criticizing this fact that these guys have to go through all these crazy antics to make weight may have forgotten that that's what's happening now. And as far as I know, that's still going on. So this is not going to ever continue to happen as long as these guys can, compete 3 times and they get the permanent height card. You have to have some sort of a standard at some point, and I think it's a good way to do it. The average of 3 heights makes sense. Obviously, you're going to have to compete 3 times to get that permanent height card. So thank you for Michael Daboul, even though it's his competitor, helping out. Because as I always say, we're all iron brothers and sisters at the end of the day. No one wants to see anyone not be able to compete in a show because they can't make a weight. So even though it's a little ridiculous, they're kind of stretching his body in the Instagram post. And then you can see Michael, pulling on the guy's foot. And then you see, in the next post I put up, you can actually see Matala on the scale, kind of standing on the edges of his foot, trying to be a little taller. And it's funny looking back. Thank God he made the height and the weight. Everything was good. But it's funny now looking back. But it's not funny when you're going through it because it's very stressful. You go to a show, you're at your best, you think, all right, I'm ready. And then all of a sudden they tell you, sorry, you didn't make the weight. And you're like, what do you mean I didn't make the weight? I weigh exactly what I knew I had to weigh. And they're like, no, actually you need to weigh 3 pounds less or whatever. Whatever. I don't know what the exact scale, measurements were for this particular event, for that particular individual. But it gets very stressful, believe me. I've had to make weights. Not a lot in my career because I was always a super heavyweight, but in the beginning part of my career, it's not fun. And these guys are professionals. There's money on the line here. Olympia qualifications on the line. So to see a fellow competitor helping out another competitor, I kind of touches my heart. I'm sure we're all, been there before, and that was very kind and compassionate of Michael Daboul to help him out. But at the end of the day, we're working on solving this problem, and I think that that's the most important thing. It's not. I don't have to go on a whole rant here about how terrible it is that we have different weights at every show, given what a person's height is, because guys shrink. If you have If you're very dehydrated, your spine is going to be compressed a little bit. You're not going to be as tall. Toward the end of the day, you tend to be shorter than at the beginning of the day. And you shouldn't really be able to stretch and make a weight. So it's kind of, the whole process is ridiculous. And that's why, thank God, once these permanent height cards are given out to these pros, it's going to make this whole situation, it's going to nullify it essentially. And we're not going to have that kind of stress. You're still going to have to make a weight, but you're going to know the weight you have to make because you're going to have a permanent height card. And given that height, you're going to be able to look at the chart and see what your weight is. Now, a lot of these guys are lucky because they raised the height and weight requirements recently in the pro ranks. So every height class got at least a 2-pound bump. And then some of the taller guys actually got a 7-pound bump because they had figured out the height, weight requirements wrong first. I think it was from the 6 foot to 6'2" category. So those guys got a real big bump, and you saw that on stage. I think that was guys like Ramon and Urs, and they got to weigh a lot more than they did the year before. So that definitely helped those guys out. So look, we don't want to see this continue. It's not going to continue. It's being fixed as we speak. And this is just a little hiccup along the way. And once again, probably by next year, we're not going to even be dealing with this anymore. But at the end of the day, like I said, it is a stressful situation. You don't want to have to go through it. I appreciate Michael Daboul's, professionalism in helping out his fellow competitor make that weight. And I think that we're going to see a really good show in Austria. It would be interesting if those two are going to be the final two that the show is going to be between when it comes down to it, and let's see who wins, and and we'll know if that was a good decision or a poor decision on Michael Daboul's part to help him out. But hey, you know what I always say? You want to compete against the best. We all do. We want to beat the best. We want to compete against the best so that we can say we were the best on that stage, and that's what it's really all about. Dave Palumbo with an RX Muscle Rant.